Fox News political insiders are here, and you, of course, can join the conversation on Twitter, as many of you are already doing, at Harris Faulkner, at FN Insiders, hashtag FRW. John LeBoutillier, former Republican congressman for New York. Pat Caddell in the center, a former pollster for President Jimmy Carter and Fox News contributor. Doug Schoen, former pollster for President Bill Clinton and a Fox News contributor as well. Gentlemen, I want to go to you first. Sure. Before I even start to share some of what's on Twitter, because I've asked people who are in the military or with military family members to speak up, because we're not hearing their voices yet. Pat, your first thoughts on this?
My first thoughts are, this is a surprise. The VA has been mistreating and not helping our veterans since I can ever remember. We've had scandals in the 70s, the 80s. Remember the problems they had at Walter Reed in Washington, Bethesda, with George W. Bush. But this is really, it's like all of the way government's working now. It doesn't serve people, it serves the people who run it. And this is just terrible.
As a retired vet with 30 years service, this isn't the first time I've heard of VA problems. I bought TRICARE. VA is a joke. Darrell Bagley. Doug?
Yeah, this is a national shame. Pat spoke eloquently to the challenges we face, but when we ask people to put themselves in harm's way, frequently they suffer, they come back, and we don't offer them the care that we promise. It is a national tragedy.
Army Chief P writes, hashtag veterans, reported these problems for years and were ignored until the whistleblowers came forward. John, these people are critical.
Yeah, well, can I give you a suggested solution that the three of us talked about a few minutes ago?
Sure.
I think
yes.
What Pat said is so true. This is nothing new. This has been going on. I've never found one veteran who's happy with how they're treated by the VA. And it doesn't matter who the president is. It's been bad under both parties. So here is a solution, okay? We are going to abolish the VA, Harris. Get rid of it, close it down, get rid of it. Hand every veteran an insurance card. And the insurance card gives them the exact same insurance that every member of Congress has. And they can go to any hospital, any doctor, like a congressman can or a senator.
That's interesting.
And that's it. And they get that level of care, and they deserve that level.
I'm going to watch Twitter and see what people think about that.
I think it's a great idea, and I think the chances of it happening, by the way, with these people run things are nil and none. Because I want to tell you something, my dad was in the Coast Guard for 31 years. He stayed in, he was in before World War II. When he stayed in, he said, if you stay in 30 years and do this, you will have free medical care, and you will have the best thing all the way through. And then he didn't. They took it away. And then two administrations, George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton, went to court to knock out the promises they had made to veterans on what they would have. And they did this in as late as the 90s.
All right, I want to intercede here because I hear all three of you saying this, Democrats, Republicans alike, that everybody wears this and that this, I'm seeing on Twitter, I'm a veteran, a military veteran, Kim Bowden writes, President Obama is the commander-in-chief of the military. The VA scandal is his responsibility to fix. But this has been going on for so long. Why did it have to come to this, Doug?
It had to come to this because of what Kim was saying. We don't have leadership or integrity in Washington. No one is willing to step forward and say, we've got to solve these problems on a bipartisan basis, make government, particularly the veterans' health care system, work. Pat's story is illustrative of what needs to be done. John is speaking directly. We really need to do something and do something now.
Independent 02 writes on Twitter, I like that. John, they deserve that. This idea of giving our military veterans the same care that Congress gets. How come we haven't heard that before?
God knows. But, here's the way I look at it.
Maybe we have.
Government is priorities. Who's going to get what first? Because you can't give everybody everything. And don't we think, the four of us here at the table, that if you are asked and you put the uniform on and risk your life for the country, when you come back, you are at the head of the line for everything that the government has to offer. Education, health care, job opportunities, retraining, all of it.
The only time we really took care of our vets was after World War II, the GI Bill, all the stuff that was done, and it changed America.
And it changed confidence
And it
in
changed
government.
confidence in exactly.
People believe
believe in
government kept its promise
But government
in the
doesn't
50s.
do anything for anybody. Look, we have more scandals. Look what's happening. We have an NSA that spies on American citizens. We have an IRS that chooses to go after whoever it chooses to go after. We have people in the field a year ago who gave their lives, and we have a massive cover-up going on that the media says in Benghazi never happened. Or what difference does it make? This is the way government treats its people. They treat us like we're their subjects. They don't treat the American people like they're their bosses or their sovereign.
You know, it's interesting. KD writes, and I'm not going to read the full thing because it kind of gets us going down a different road, but the first part of it is funny. Why not give them Obamacare? Because everybody knows that it would be inferior to what you're talking about with giving them what every congressperson gets.
VA medical care is a precursor
Those aren't my words,
to
by the way.
Obamacare. It's bureaucratic, second-rate care. It's what you're going to get mostly under Obamacare. You definitely get it under Medicare, which millions are getting shoved into Medicare.
And Medicaid.
Right.
I meant
want
to
to
say
make it
Medicaid.
clear.
Excuse me. Medicare is good. Medicaid.
Medicaid. And I want to make it very clear that those are the words of the viewer, not mine. Nancy Irwin writes, the veterans absolutely deserve equal coverage as Congress, if not better. All right, let's move on to the next point of this, because you're bringing up more of an umbrella issue, and that's the government being trusted. Sure. Can we put those numbers up on the screen? Because I want you guys to see this. Right now, the trust in the federal government, look at the percentage and how low those numbers are. This is according to a recent Fox News poll. For Democrats right now, it's 55%. You would think with their party in charge in the White House, it would maybe be higher than that. Yeah. Republicans, just 19%. But look at independents.
And
that's pretty steady across the board.
But now look how it dropped from 2002 after, when it was 53 with independents, and pretty high with everybody after 9/11, and that was a temporary bump. It's been like this forever.
And Harris, this is a harbinger of ill for President Obama and the Democrats. With confidence or trust in government at only 31%, this says that independents, the key swing group in November, have deep-seated doubts about government and the administration.
So you think that the Democrats wear this more than anybody, and
Absolutely.
that they're more in peril because of a number like that?
That is absolutely the case.
They're all in peril. They're all imperiled eventually to something. But, you know, we saw it this week in Gallup. The enthusiasm compared to even 2010 was like from 50-some% to 35%, except Democrats are still less enthusiastic than Republicans, which will work to what Doug said. But basically, that's what they think about our system. Why should they be? Both parties treat them like they're idiots.
John?
Well, I agree.
I hear John wanting to hold up a sign that says what he said.
Yeah, no, I think, first of all, I've said this before, the passion differential this year favors the Republicans. There's more anger against Obama, against Obamacare, against these scandals.
They call it voter enthusiasm.
Okay, fine.
And we've seen polls recently that Republican voters have much bigger edge over the Democrats.
But it's still a lot less than it was. Yeah. It's just they both collapsed.
There is an overarching crisis of confidence in this country. Harris, the VA scandal bears out Pat's more general point. People don't trust the government. They're cynical about our president and Congress, and we'll see it in the polls. It'll help the Republicans, but make no mistake, it's an across-the-board level of disaffection and dissatisfaction.
All right, sit tight. And Twitter is alive. We'll share some more of those comments from military families in a moment. Critics are claiming Hillary Clinton is unfit to be president due to her handling of the Benghazi and Boko Haram tragedies. Here's former Vice President Dick Cheney.
She was one of the first in Washington to know about it. I think she clearly bears responsibility for whatever the State Department did or didn't do with respect to that crisis.
But I really want to go back to Twitter right now, because I had asked everybody to weigh in and chime in, if you would, if you were in a military family or love somebody who's in a military family. And John LeBoutillier, they are loving your idea about giving our military veterans, skipping away with the VA hospital system and giving them access to what every congressional member has. Benghazi matters, and that's this person's name on Twitter. I will be calling my Congress members in the morning first thing, same coverage for vets as members of Congress. I have seen 2 marriage proposals go by for you, John LeBoutillier. Wow. You know, they are loving this idea.
Harris, this could be the beginning. Now, John was in Congress from 1980 to 82. This could be the beginning of a draft John LeBoutillier to get him back into the House or perhaps the Senate, because this is a specific solution to a real problem, giving ordinary people, and I say ordinary in terms of the extraordinary service they offer, access to the same benefits members of Congress have.
It's so common sense.
So common sense.
They
correct.
will oppose it all, and that's why the people could throw everyone out over it.
Yeah.
All right, one more. D. Hamby writes, great idea to give veterans same insurance as Congress and Senate. We'll see what happens to it. Will you follow up on that?
Oh, yeah.
For us? Yeah. Okay, because we'd love to. Let's move on. Let's talk about Hillary Clinton's past and future, if you will, dominating Sunday morning talk shows. I mean, it was all over the place today. From the Benghazi and Boko Haram tragedies to alleged health issues, it seems opponents and supporters just cannot get enough of the former Secretary of State. Is this a ploy to sway the presidential election one way or the other? Our political insiders are back. John, Pat, Doug, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, here's what I'd say. Politically, I think Karl Rove, who began with the assertion, somewhat infelicitously, I would say, where he said she was quoted as saying she had brain damage, then backtracked that. This was a way of raising the issue early, potentially causing her problems. As far as I can see, it ultimately has worked to her advantage, because what Rove said was so over the top that ultimately I think it has taken the issue, gotten it aired, and ultimately I think she will be the nominee and has at least a 50% chance of being elected.
All right, I want to ask our team of producers in the booth if they could pop up that President Clinton soundbite. Do we have that? A little bit of what he said about her health, and then we'll talk more about it. Let's watch.
Now they say she's really got brain damage.
You think they're just
If she
trying to...
does, then I must be in really tough shape, because she's still quicker than I am.
All right, Doug, you mentioned it. We just happen to have it in the hopper. Pat, I'm curious to know, does this mean, because some political observers are saying, well, that means she's running. If the president has already answered back on something like this about...
Oh, he's done more than that. Not only was he effective in doing that, and by the way, I heard Juan Williams this morning on Fox suggesting to Karl Rove's face that he was doing it to help her get elected. I mean, the conspiracy theories run great on this thing. But Bill Clinton has done more than that. If you've noticed and parsed what he has been saying carefully, as all week he has been defending her on Benghazi, saying she wasn't in the front line. That was by suggestion the president and the Pentagon and so forth, protecting her, offering, and in a subtle rebuke of the Obama administration on the verge of these hearings. Now, and remember, these hearings, we now know, that Fox had a poll this week, again, as we said before, overwhelming majorities want to have the hearings, including 55% of Democrats. The great canard of our time is no one wants to know. But she is in the line of damage there, because also in that poll, half the people say she was trying to deceive too.
You would agree, would you not, that Hillary Clinton benefited this week by President Bill Clinton going out there, defending her on Benghazi and taking the health issue?
But it's so early.
It is.
It's so early. It's May. Although the groundhog
May of 2014.
and it's still cold outside here in New York. But it's May of 2014. John, have Republicans maybe moved in on this a little bit too early, or is this a good thing?
I don't think this country could take year after year of this kind of week where it's all Hillary, different aspects. I mean, when are we going to get sick of the thing?
In the bushes.
And we can't take any more of them. And I think there is going to be a time when something new is going to crop up. America loves new stuff. We like new iPhones and new cars and new computers, and they're going to want someone new.
There are members in the Democrat Party, though, Pat, who say that Jeb Bush is probably the greatest challenge to someone like a Hillary Clinton because he's so moderate.
Well, they say that every year. And the one thing I have to say, and it's just empirical evidence, am I right, Doug? Every poll, like they showed in Ohio this week, Hillary was beating every Republican named, and she was beating Jeb Bush the worst. And that has been showing up everywhere.
Even in Florida?
Even in Florida. And I think the Democrats want him because they want another guy that they can just roll over.
Hey, you know what I don't get?
It's early, though.
What I don't get is these polls that we use and what we talk about shows deep distrust for the federal government, for incumbents, for people who are in the Beltway all the time.
And there's that overarching view.
Why are we for Hillary when she's a pseudo-incumbent for 30 years? She is the establishment. Does anybody really think Hillary and Bill Clinton are going to change anything?
Because Bill Clinton succeeded, John.
They're going to keep
and
talking
Hillary's
while we go to the commercial
not,
break. We'll
not
be right
Barack
back.
Obama.
Yeah.
All right, with the last couple of minutes of the show, I want to bring back our Fox News political insiders, John, Pat, and Doug. I want to start with this notion of what we learned about Hillary Clinton from President Clinton, because you guys kept talking during the commercial. And from that conversation, you said, well, did we even know that? She needed 6 months of rehab. Doug?
Yeah, I think he may have misspoke. It may have been 6 weeks, but I think we've learned a couple of things. First, that the defense on Benghazi is not in the immediate chain of command, set up a review panel, and implemented the recommendations. And second, that the health issues, while obviously serious ones, have been dealt with in a serious professional way. I think to the good for the Clintons, ultimately, Bill Clinton has become the defender in chief. And to John and Pat's question about why the Clintons have credibility, one answer: Bill Clinton's record in office.
All right, Pray Without Ceasing asked the same question. Did we know Hillary had rehab for 6 months? Doug's pushing back and says, I think he misspoke, but for 6 weeks. But still, Pat, you said something interesting. You said, well, they like to give bad news during
I
these.
thought I said if that was the case, John was making the point. I said they got it under the radar. I mean, kind of got it out there, get it out there yourself, float it as part after you're making a general positive attack. But I want to go back to what John said. Here's where I disagree with Doug. Look, the country. The problem is Hillary Clinton is the establishment wing, the Democratic wing of the political class, just like Jeb Bush is the Republican wing of the political class. The country has had it with all of this. She is surrounded by guys with blue hair trying to get their hands on contracts, to quote what Pete Hamill once wrote to Bobby Kennedy about Lyndon Johnson and the people in office. Here is the problem. There are people who are hangers on, money, whatever. And what the country wants is something different and new, not what's coming out of Washington. That's what all these polls say, and that's something we're going to deal with.
You know, this is going to be like where we talked for an hour, but they only remembered one thing Pat said. She's surrounded by guys with blue hair who only want to get their hands on contracts. That is memorable.
Bundlers, Harris. Bundlers.
Good to see you all. And by the way, the conversation on Twitter is going on. I know you guys stay up late on Sunday night, so people get excited about that. At FN Insiders, if you want to continue. And also, you can watch them every Monday morning on our website, foxnews.com. Click on the logo and have yourself a good time at 10:30 a.m. Eastern.